Hey guys, welcome to another video from Historic Militaria. Today we're going to be looking at a pair of grenades which are pretty much really unusual. This is a pair of Croatian BRON grenades, B-R-O-N, and these were made in the initial stages of the Balkan conflict in the early 1990s. Sort of the thumbnail version is that the Croatian territories were occupied to some extent by Serbian forces, and the Croatians did not have access to standard Yugoslav army grenades on any large scale, so they were forced to improvise. To that end, they came up with a lot of very interesting designs, a lot of designs that were local to different cities, and as far as I understand, now keep in mind, not all of this may be right. A lot of this comes from explosives ordnance disposal teams that have encountered these in the Balkan region. They were never standardized, so if you know something else about them, please comment and help out everyone's knowledge of these. But as far as we know, these were made by a concern called Duro Dakovic, and they were filled with usually plastic explosive or TNT. They had the practice M75 fuses in them because the Croatians could not find regular grenade fuses, so they used a practice fuse from a practice grenade, and then they would attach a detonator of their own improvised design. Some of the designs were really good. They had been tested before they were ever fielded. Others were really scary and I'm sure led to some accidents and casualties. The first thing you notice about these grenades is that they are made of brass, which is pretty unusual. You don't see a lot of fragmentation grenades made of brass. They're also pretty roughly made. If they were a little bit older looking, it would be pretty believable if you said this was from World War I. This one is actually pretty nicely made in that it's well cast, looks good, almost looks like it came from a large scale facility. Whereas this one is also a BRON, but it's a little bit of a different variant. You can see there's a lot of casting marks there, a lot of roughness, just a pretty rough grenade in general. I'm sure it would still work if it had explosive in it. I wouldn't want that thrown at me either way. But there are different variants of these, and again, as I said, most of the information that we know about them comes from explosive ordnance disposal teams who encountered these and had to deal with them. And after sort of the war was getting more standardized and weapons were a little bit easier to obtain, most all of the native Croatian designs were withdrawn and destroyed just to standardize on one kind of grenade. Again, there are different variants of these. The initial ones did not have a detonator in them. They actually just had, or I'm sorry, not a fuse in them. They actually just had a length of slow burning fuse that was held in with some wax to waterproof it. You'd light it and you'd throw it. And finally they moved on to having a fuse that was a little bit safer, a little more standardized, and one that actually is threaded in. These are threaded, so they are pretty well made in that respect. But it just goes to show there's a lot of really interesting Croatian and Bosnian designs out there that were used during the Civil War period. And we'll be trying to take a look at some of those, although information is really hard to obtain on them. So again, if you know anything about these, if you have one of these, certainly, I'd love to hear about it. If you have personal experience with them, again, comment please, like and subscribe, and we'll be looking at more interesting grenades and militaria from around the world in the near future. Thanks for watching.